Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is your entrepreneurship tutor, Professor Henry Bwisa of Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture in Kenya. Today, I'm talking to my entrepreneurship and business students. This is a lecturette, a short lecture to explain some ABC of break-even analysis. In other words, some basics about break-even analysis. Now, people go into business chiefly to earn a profit. Now, to earn the profit, they must incur expenses or costs to produce and sell the products or services. There are two main costs. One, the costs which don't change, don't vary with the changing volumes of production, or which stay constant over a period of time. For example, my salary does not change with the number of students in my class. Whether I teach one student or 100 students, I get the same salary. I get the same salary throughout the year. Maybe an increment can come annually, but it stays constant throughout that year. So it's fixed over that period. Now, this is a fixed cost, my salary, to the university. Now, other examples of fixed costs are rent and lease costs, insurance, business licenses, utility bills, electricity, and so on and so forth. Two, they are what we call variable costs. These costs vary with the volume of production. For example, the more the students in the university, the more the expenditure on food items in the students' cafeteria. The raw materials used in industry, let's say milk to produce or manufacture milk, vary with the volume of production. The more packages of milk produced, the more packages of raw material required, and therefore the cost vary. The more the casual laborers in the university, the more the wage bill. And remember, a wage is not a salary. Now, profit must be earned. Profit has to be worked for. Now, to earn is to receive a return for effort and especially for work done. In business, profit is earned when the revenue received surpasses all the startup costs of the business. Now, a startup with no sales, at startup, when there is no sale or where there are no revenues, certain fixed costs such as insurance, lease, etc. would have been incurred anyway. These costs must be recovered before the business starts making a profit. At the point of recovery, revenue equals costs. What are we saying? That when every business, any business starts, it has already incurred some costs. And to make profit, these costs that were incurred even before we produce any unit of product or service, these costs must be recovered before we say we are now making a profit. And that time, when the costs are being, recovered, that is the point we call break even. So, some of the break even analysis representations or presentations include the following. Look, this one. It's a graph. The red are losses, the green are profits. There were some losses up to certain time, and then the profit. This is the time we're calling break even. We can also represent it via formula. Break even revenue is fixed costs divided by gross margin percent. We can also represent it via a graph like this one, that at the beginning, as time passes, we shall be incurring or recovering the costs that we put in, the initial cost that we put in, and then start recovering them until we have recovered them, is when we shall say we have broken even. Still more formulae, break even point fixed costs divided by selling price per unit minus variable cost per unit. Break-even point, fixed cost divided by contribution margin per unit. But we can also represent this break-even analysis by just simple cash flow. Look, month zero, before you start a business, you'd have already incurred some costs, those fixed costs. For illustrative purposes, let's just use this formula, imaginary figures, that maybe you have incurred 50 fixed costs, and therefore your profit at the beginning is not there, it's a loss. 50, cumulative 50. Come month one, probably you earn something, revenue, 10. But because you're still beginning, the costs are high. Not just as high as you started, they are lower. But revenue 10, costs 40, you are still in the red, 30. Add on what you had incurred first month as a loss, your losses are cumulatively growing. Although you are making progress, you are also actually growing in terms of losses. Look, month 2, 20 revenues, 30 costs, a less profit or rather loss, but cumulatively we're still growing. In month 3, you make revenue of 30, cost of 20, now you earn a positive profit. This positive profit reduces the cumulated 90 to 80. You go on and get 40 in month 4, 40 revenue, 20 costs, then you have 20 positive profit. This 20 reduces the cumulated 80 to 60. In month 5, you make 50 in terms of revenue, and you incur cost of 20. So the profit is 30. This profit of 30 reduces the cumulated profit of 60 to 30. Month 6, you remain at 50, revenue. You remain at 50 cost, then you still make your 30 profit, and now it cancels out the cumulated 30. Now it's like you are zero. You have now recovered all the costs. So in month 7, you start now, maybe you get 60 with the cost of 10, then you make, a profit of 50, and that is now remains positive. And you start now, making progress. And we're saying, therefore, at that point, when cumulative profit became zero, therefore, you are breaking even, or you broke even. Now, let's make it simpler. Let's make it simpler here. That when you go into business, you incur costs. This graph, you incur costs. You also make sales. You either get profit or loss along that vertical axis. But along the horizontal axis, it is time. Time elapses, or the volume of production increases. When they do so, you remember, you incur certain fixed costs. My salary, for example, remains the same over a long period of time. In this case, 1 year, because I have only an annual increment. So up to 1 year, my 12 months, my salary becomes fixed, it remains fixed. Rent and so on. These are fixed costs. But then when you start a business, you start incurring those variable costs, which you can indicate here. These variable costs, these ones, the variable costs added onto the fixed costs become total costs. fixed costs plus variable cost, total cost. So the costs, the variable costs start adding on the fixed cost as they grow, as time passes, as volume of production increases. Therefore, this gap starts growing, total cost grow. But at the same time, when you start business, this is revenue, total revenue. Revenue start rising from zero. And if you're working well, if you're a good business person, the revenue will start rising faster than the total costs. So that at this point of time, the total revenue crosses the total cost. That point where they are crossing. Let's say you have been making losses. Why? Because the revenue, this revenue is less than the cost. Look, the red. The revenue is below the total cost. Therefore, there is a loss. But you reach a point where now the revenue, total revenue, is equal to total cost. When the graph of the revenue and the total cost cross, we call them total revenue is equal to total cost. So that is when we call zero. TR is equal to TC. Therefore, TR minus TC is equal to 0. So now you have recovered all your costs, fixed costs, cumulative losses. Now you start, growing. And those are now the profits. So profit starts growing. Now this gap, there's ethics in it. How large should this gap be? Is profit ethical? But let that be a story for another day. Exploitation, zero profit, let it be for another day. So we're saying break-even point is the point where the total cost and the total revenue are equal. There is no business loss or business gain. Economists will call it zero profit. In other words, all that spent on production is earned back via sales. It's important, therefore, to notice this volume of production or time in business. That when you go in business, you will start by making losses. And only after a time, and after a certain volume of production, you will start making profit. So profit is earned. You must work for it. And don't give up in business too early. It is important to get an expert to estimate for you your break-even point. Here, when you know how long it will take you to break even, you'll manage your business with that projection. If you don't know when you'll break even, you'll be expecting profit. It's not coming. You can easily give up when you are almost breaking even. Yes, I've had businesses which stay in losses for 2 years, and then they say no. By rule of thumb, small businesses, particularly in Kenya, break even at 42 months, 3.5 years. So you might stay in business for 2 years, 3 years, and think this business is not bad. But because you did not calculate your break-even point, you might give up. Today in Kenya, we're being told that startups will be given 7 years tax holiday. Of course, if you have managed yourself well, probably by the 3.5 years, you would have already broken even. So the rest, those 7 years or the 4 years that remaining, you'll be enjoying your profit without any taxation. Something that we can debate later. Now, different businesses, different sectors take different periods of time to break even. A minibus business, for example, might break even faster, maybe in 6 months. But an agricultural-based business might break even at a longer period. Therefore, it is important, always important, to estimate your break-even point to give you a guide on how to manage your business and when you expect profit. You might just leave that profit business of yours at the 11th hour. So break-even point is important. Thank you for listening. Have a short break-even period, and please subscribe to get alerts of when I give other lectures. Share with colleagues. Please let others also benefit from what you are benefiting. Please give a thumbs up if you liked it. So subscribe, share, and like it. I hope you liked it. And again, thank you for watching, listening, and have a short break-even point, won't you?